Hey, Steven, I just wanted to let you know that Tony Wang's 9-year-old daughter is having a birthday, and he wanted me to wish his daughter a birthday. Tony Wang, his daughter's 9. Okay, that's very important to get out there. Okay, bye, Steven.
Where are you, Steven? Are you out buying a Subaru or something right now? We made the decision this week that I'm going to fly solo. Sorry to disappoint anybody who wants to hear the banter back and forth with Steven, even though he only talks for like 12.5% of an episode. Can someone do the math on what is the percentage of Steven getting airtime versus me? If anybody does that, please text us at the text line number, which Steven doesn't have because he's not here. I have it somewhere. Jared, where's your text line number? I don't know. It's 313 something or other. It's in the show notes, okay? It's in the show notes. So anyway, the reason I'm going about this alone today is we have a lot of stuff to get done. We are up against the gun on a bunch of different projects. One being the Kickstarter for the next book, which I've named Book 2, 22 Years of Music Photography, as we've talked about for the past couple of weeks. Now, I want to get that out in the next, before October is over. I want the Kickstarter kind of done before Thanksgiving, before the holiday spending season, because I just feel like I want to get it done and in the can and have people make their purchases so that they're not worried about it long term. And then the book would probably be shipped sometimes in February or March. That's just how it would be. It gets printed after the Kickstarter is final in November, and then it has to get shipped in freaking January, and it's got to come on a container ship, and it's expensive to do that, and that's just the nature of doing business. There's other things I want to talk about with the book, but that's one of the things why Steven isn't here today, and no, he's not actually out buying a Subaru that I know of just yet. I will say that Subaru commercial was hilarious. I finally listened to it because I don't listen to the episodes back. I made the episode. Why do I need to listen to the episode? We made it, so whatever. But I listened to what Steven did, and it was really good with the added jingle. I find that to be a fun thing. And that's kind of what I like about RAWtalk. It doesn't always have to be photography related, and that weird is perfectly fine. It's okay to be weird. It's okay to be yourself. It's okay to not stay on topic all the time because fun things happen. I don't even know where the Subaru thing came out of anymore. Maybe Steven planted it because he didn't want me to talk like Mickey. That's right, Jared. Steven, I was a plant by Steven. But guess what? Guess where I'm going, Jared? I'm going to buy a Subaru for me and Minnie. Wait a second. I don't really mean Minnie. I mean, there's this guy I've been seeing. That's right. Ha! I'm gay. I'm going to buy a Subaru. I love Subarus, everybody. Well, wait for me, Mickey. It's Goofy. And my dog. Oh, wait, shit. Pluto's the dog. I still tell that story where I was at Disney World and I saw who I thought was Goofy, and I was like, "Hey, it's Goofy," and he's like, "No," he's waving his hands. He's like, "No," and I'm like, "What do you mean no? You look like Goofy." And someone's like, "That's Pluto." I'm like, "What's the difference?" They're like, "Well, one of them wears pants." I was like, "Oh, shit, I didn't know that." So anyway, amongst other things, Steven's working on that. We got to get some stuff in the can to film so that Dan can get stuff to edit because we're getting caught up. There's the R5 Mark II real world review. There's the user guide. There's probably a bunch of new stuff coming out at some point that we don't know of just yet. I mean, it usually happens around this time, is that these companies like to throw announcements at us, and that throws a monkey wrench into everything that we're doing because we start to make plans, and then a company calls you like, "Oh, we're going to put out this new toy sometime." This is conjecture. I'm just saying how it's worked in the past. And it's just like, they just throw it at you and you're like, fuck, we got to do it. But then it takes us out of what we've been working on. So anyway, Steven is catching up on a bunch of stuff. This makes it a little easier to give him a little respite from this. And he will be back next week when we're having conversations. So I'm going to go on a rant in a minute about something. And I think it's very important that you guys listen to that because I think you'll hear it in a second. Then I want to transition into not buying a Subaru. By the way, speaking of transitioning, Steven's not here to talk about this, but I watched Me and Harper or Will and Harper or whatever it was called on Netflix, where Will Ferrell has a longtime friend named, her new name is Harper Steele. Her dead name was Andrew something. I don't remember what. Dead name is a thing that I guess I learned. Dead name is a name, is no longer the name of a person who has transitioned. I'm technically doing air quotes, but I don't really mean to do air quotes because it's not. It's a legit thing. I don't have to. I just. It's new to hear dead name, like someone dead names someone. I'm learning all these terms, and I guess people are learning all the terms too, and we're all navigating the changing world as we navigate the changing world. But the documentary is about this person who was born a boy, a man, a male, and always felt different in the 60s and 70s, and even as a child just felt like they were in the wrong body, and it's the story of how they decided to make the transition as like a 60-year-old, I believe, who had a family, right? They had kids and a wife, and decided to make the change. And it's about do I think it's the best documentary ever? No, not really. But I think it's eye-opening to share the experiences, the eye-opening experiences of how one person feels and how you can have empathy for them for what they're going through. And so it's with Will discovering that with the Harper Steele, not the Harper Steele, but what that person is going through. And there was a cool, interesting encounter with another trans person who is a male and transitioned to a female. And they were saying a story about their voice, and Harper Steele was saying that they aren't happy with their voice and they wish they could change it. And then the other person said, look, I tried so many things, speech therapy, I tried changing my voice, but then I realized that I'm changing it for other people and I'm not changing it for me. I'm fine with my voice. And just because it sounds like a man's voice, it is what it is. I don't feel like the justification should be that I'm changing it to make other people feel better. And I thought that was interesting. I mean, you can learn from everything. You don't have to agree with it. Doesn't mean you have to change. I mean, you can choose to change or you can choose not to change. That's up to you. But it's just interesting to hear the other perspective directly from someone. Some of the things go way over the top, but I'm not talking about in the documentaries, that some people just get way out of hand with some of it. And then other people are more open to having a conversation and helping you understand it. And that's if you choose to want to understand it. So anyway, I thought that was a very interesting documentary to at least watch. Whether you like it or agree or don't, it is what it is. It's just something to listen to. So anyway, I watched that documentary on Netflix. So after my rant, I want to get into me being in my head and giving up on a game, the Phillies game. It was the second game. I shot with the 4x5 and I was having trouble. I made a decision. The decision was only take the 4x5 and not take out the new Sony A9 IIIs that I have. And then I was going to force myself to focus on just using the 4x5. And there's challenges that come up with that. So I want to talk about the mental challenges I had at this game. And I did a 10-minute long video on Instagram where I shared my thoughts. I haven't even gone back to look at some of the comments right now. I forgot that the video is up there, but it's on Instagram. It's on the Reels page. It's not on the main page. And if you want to hear what I'm talking about there's 10 minutes of it. Should we just play it? Oh, I'm going to have Steven just play it when we get to that point, because I think it's important to listen to. Yeah, I'm going to have Steven just play it. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about then how I made up for that. FOMO is a big thing for me, and something else about my book. Oh, and then the Sony A1 rumors. Let's talk about the Sony A1 rumors right now, so we don't get too far into the weeds, because there's Sony A1 II rumors that came from Sony Alpha Rumors, who's been super quiet on getting their rumors right lately. So they're saying that a new source has told them that the A9 II is coming, and they can't call them a reliable source because they are a news source. And because they're a news source, whatever. So they read this and they said, here's the quote: "There's a high probability that the A1 Mark II will drop before the end of the year, but the very end of the year." I mean, okay, the very end of the year. "The only reason it would be in January 2025 would be because of production issues. I'm told same chip," which we call them sensors in image sensors, not chips. Just the updates we expect are AI chip, that's a chip, etc. And in the same body as the A9 III body. The reason I'm having trouble reading this is because it's written by like a fucking moron. The A9 III body would be a Mark III version because of existing grip and cages, etc., and customers. Prototypes are in the wild. Like, what a really poorly written freaking sentence or paragraph. Anyway, at first I couldn't understand why they wouldn't change the body. But I guess it kind of makes sense if there's people that are already invested in the A1 system, that if they already have cages for this generation, that it makes sense to stick with it. To say that it has the same sensor, I think kind of makes sense, that if it is true that it would have the same sensor, because Sony tends to do that where they reuse the same sensor for 3, 4, 5, 6 years sometimes, and they get better tweaks out of it. There's supposed to be speed improvements, the new AI processor chip that's going to be in there. The processor will definitely give it better autofocus. They talk about improved frame rates, best in class autofocus. Well, I guess that's arbitrary, because I will tell you the R1 and even the R5 Mark II has the best autofocus I've ever seen, which means the R1 is going to have even better autofocus than the R5, even though they're the same autofocus system. The R1 has cross-type sensors on the sensor to help with autofocus. C2PA authentication, which I don't care about. SD, CF Express Type A slots, which we already knew about. Same body as the A1, and not updating to the A9 III, which the A9 III feels great, but I guess the justification makes sense, that there's already people that are invested in the system and they might as well stick with it for one more generation before they make the change. It doesn't say anything about pre-shooting. It has to have pre-shooting. I will tell you, after shooting yesterday at the Mets game and using the R3, and I'm going to talk about this a little later, the R3 and the R5 Mark II, I was using the R3 as my main, and then I switched my main to the R5 Mark II because the pre-shooting. I got the shot. There's a Castellanos leaped in the outfield, made a leaping, jumping catch, and I got a picture. But if I was with the R5 II, I would have had pre-capture capturing some of the before shots before I was able to press the button, even though I had it halfway pressed, finding the subject. So that's where pre-shooting comes in handy. So do I think that this is real, this A12? Probably. I mean, it's been a while. I didn't know if they were going to make another one or not, so I don't know. But it's going to be a major question of what's it going to cost. It's $6,000 for an A9 III. Do I think that the A12 will be a global shutter? And the answer to that is no. I don't even think I said that in the photo news fix. I think I didn't mention. Oh, I said same sensor, so that would mean that it's not a global shutter, because you go back and you think, I got tired. I drove 300 miles, less than 300 miles. I had 8% left on my car when I got back from the Mets game yesterday, because I left and I had 89% because I didn't charge it all the way up to 100% because I didn't know I was going to go to the game. And then I got home with 8% left, which is roughly 35 to 40 miles of range, which isn't bad. But anyway, I think the A12, if real, will have to have pre-shooting. And then it becomes a major dilemma. What do these sports shooters do? Because a lot of them want to crop, and they love the A9 III. They love what they get with the A9 III for the pre-shooting, and they love that there's no flickering, and that's a big deal, that there's no flickering in the background or the bats are straight. But for the most part, the readout speeds of the sensors have gotten super fast. I was looking at even the R5 Mark II stuff yesterday. It's imperceivable. I mean, yeah, is the ball perfectly round? No, but is it almost perfectly round? Yes. It's like you barely can tell a difference from where I was shooting. So it's going to be a big dilemma for shooters, because A12 is going to give that 50 megapixels, I would say the same autofocus or similar autofocus to the A9 III, and fast shooting. And if it has pre-shooting, it's going to be a toss-up, because that camera's going to have to be what, 65, 67, 6,800 bucks, whereas the other one's 6,000. So yeah, it's a big dilemma for what people are going to have to decide to do that have A1s, and we're deciding between A9 IIIs and A12s. I know a lot of people who really want those extra megapixels, so that's up to them to decide on what to do. I personally prefer the speed capabilities of the A9 III. And you people talk about dynamic range loss with the A9 III and the ISO differences, and you're going to see some differences with ISO. You're going to see some, I can't tell you whether you're going to see dynamic range loss. No one knows, because no one cares. When you're actually shooting photos, you get the photo, no one cares because you got the picture. So it's not that big of a deal. You're not out there shooting landscapes at 120 frames per second. It just doesn't make sense. So I think people are thinking about the wrong stuff and worrying about the wrong stuff, but that's normal for people who sit behind the computer and just come up with this bullshit and try to come up with these ideas or these issues that don't exist. Someone said that I'm always looking for issues with something, and no, I'm not looking for issues with something, but if I'm getting the top of the line system, it better do. So, what the person was saying is I was talking about the A9 III allowing you to shoot at 120, 60, 30, 15, 10, 5, and whatever. And my complaint was, well, if it can do 120, if it can do 60, I don't know if it can do 90. Maybe it can do 90, but why can't I just dial in 52? Why can't I dial in 42, 45, 46, anything? If you give us the ability to do that, and you give us the ability to dial in pre-shooting down to a 1/100th of a second, why can't we have the ability to set how many frames a second we can shoot? Now, the reason that's important is when the R1 comes out, that will shoot at 40 frames per second. With the A9 III, you're going to have to choose. You could choose between 30, or you could choose, between two options, 30 and 60. So now you're squeezing out 20 extra shots, which is fine. I shot it at 60 because you're getting some tweener images that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten. And pre-shooting, you're going to be getting a lot of files. I would like to dial in 40. 40 seems to be a pretty good sweet spot for taking stills. So when the R1 comes out, that will do 40. I mean, the R8 does 40 frames a second with the electronic shutter, which is insane because my R3 doesn't. Oh, and then they talked about we talked about it last week, and I just thought about it, that the R1 is going to have some updates to the firmware and software and autofocus stuff, and I wonder if one of those things is adding the 195 frames per second burst back. I don't know. I don't know if it will. But here's the rant that I want to talk about before I get into the baseball stuff and getting into my own head is can we stop? I hate the word normalizing, but I'm going to use it because it seems to be the new trend to say I don't chase trends, never mind. But the word normalizing I really don't like. But I put it in air quotes here because it seems to be a thing that the younger generation is big fan of doing is, well, let's normalize this. Can we stop normalizing holding the camera out in front of you? And bear with me here. I know some of you disagree. Now, people usually disagree because their first criticism of me saying that is, but sometimes I need to hold it above my head, or sometimes I need to hold it low. I'm like, yeah, perfectly fine situation when you need to do that. But when you're holding a camera in front of you, out in front of you at eye level, using the LCD screen and not the EVF to shoot in a professional environment, I just think it's wrong. And I don't think we should normalize that way of shooting because I think it is a bad way of shooting. And this comes from years of experience of me shooting. You cannot hold the camera out in front of you as stable. And the answer to everything that I'm hearing from a lot of younger photographers and creatives are, we will fix it later. I can make that exposure better later. I can crop it and make my line straight later. Well, you're creating a lot more work for yourself later, you lazy fucks. Stop being lazy. There's a reason there's an electronic viewfinder. You can more easily get your composition correct. You more easily have a better, cleaner image in front of you in the electronic viewfinder. If a subject matter is right in front of you and you are holding the camera out in front of you in a non-stable fashion, you run the risk of, one, your lines aren't going to be straight, your angles are going to be off. The LCD screen is not as high megapixels as the EVF. Usually it's 1.2 million or 1 million in the shitty Sonys, or up to 2.1 in the R3, or maybe it was more, or it's generally between 1 and 2 million. But your electronic viewfinder is like 5.7 million dots. It's a much cleaner and crisper experience. And so I'm not a big fan of watching professionals shoot a way that, and it's not just that I don't feel that it's right. And well, I don't feel that it's right because it's just not the way to shoot. That's not saying you don't evolve how you shoot and that a shooting needs to evolve even more. There's a reason that you put your eye up to the viewfinder. There's a reason you didn't hold your film camera out and try to peek through a viewfinder while taking action pictures. It just didn't work. And sure, you see it right in front of you and you're able to blister through a lot more photos and get it more right than wrong, but it's just not a great way to shoot. What did I write exactly? Holding the camera out in front. These are my notes. Stop normalizing shooting wrong. Also, stop saying you shouldn't criticize someone's work who's a pro and trying to justify subpar work. Let me preface this with, I'm not talking about criticizing them publicly just on their own posts or ripping on someone publicly without having a discussion with them. If you talk with them directly and you're having a conversation about how they shoot and you disagree with it, that's one thing. I'm not saying you should just be an asshole and start posting that someone sucks at shooting. You can think it, I think it, and I talk about it with other creators. And one creator I will remain nameless, Vanessa Joy, who I talked to, was telling me that I'm being an asshole. I mean, she tells me I'm being an asshole all the time, but I don't agree with the discussion we were having where she's like, you shouldn't criticize someone that's in a professional environment. And maybe I shouldn't bring it up and I should let her talk about it. But no, I'm just going to reiterate what she says. Like, they're a professional. They're at the height of their field. They have to work hard. They're doing this. They're there. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't justify subpar work. And when you're at the highest level, like a high level athlete, they face criticism all the time from the media, from the fans. And it's even worse because it's just, they throw it at them because these guys are pros and they're getting paid a shit ton of money to do this. But if you're a pro in an organization and you're the head photographer, I feel you should be putting out the best of the best with honors work, sir, and not putting out subpar work. And I just don't like it. What am I criticizing? Without pointing fingers, I've been seeing just underexposed action photos, just bad exposures, bad shooting methods, in the wrong positions, or shooting things that shouldn't be being shot in a playoff game. I mean, it just doesn't. Sometimes you look around and you hear photographers shooting and you look and you're like, what are you shooting right now? Why are you shooting a guy standing still on the field? Why are you shooting stock images in the playoffs? It was like all those times when I shot concerts and the first song would start off, the curtain would drop and no lights would be on. And all of a sudden 7 photographers are clicking away as if they're going to get good photos. And I just stand there. I used to look around and be like, what are you fuckers shooting right now? There is no light. And if there's no light, there's no images to capture. And if the band isn't going to give us light, then I'm not giving them photos. That's on them. And then you just wait it out until they do put on the lights. And so I'm kind of lost here. Hold on. I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble with my train of thought because Steven's not here to interrupt me, but I interrupted myself. Okay. Back to the baseball thing. So the argument that Vanessa makes for this to justify sports shooters putting out subpar work is that, they have to deliver quickly. It's integral to the job. I'm like, not really. I mean, sure, people want to see stuff quick, but just because they want to see it quick doesn't mean you need to do it bad. So there are ways around putting out images that aren't edited, that are poorly shot. And one, you shouldn't be poorly shooting your images, especially if you can look at the exposure right in front of you and you've been doing this all year long. You shouldn't be getting poorly exposed images, especially if you're a pro, you're the top of the line for an organization. But when it comes to unedited images going out into the world, the excuse of they need to get it out of there quick, and I'm sure someone's going to send this to Vanessa, and Vanessa's going to yell at me, and I'll bring her on to defend her point at some point when she's available. I don't know if she's available. Should we call Vanessa? I'm going to call Vanessa and see if she's available. Let's call Vanessa live. I'm going to see if she's going to answer, and I'm going to get her permission. I'm going to get her permission. Vanessa, I'm recording a podcast live. It's not live. I'm recording. And I want to give you an opportunity to defend yourself because I figure someone was going to send this to you.
Okay.
Because I called you out by name just for yelling at me for criticizing a professional's work. But I don't want you to say what it is, what the work is. I'm not going into those details. And I should probably have been using one of those Rode things because Steven's going to yell at me because he's not on this episode, but for not plugging in. Anyway, you did criticize me for criticizing them, correct?
Yes, I did.
And why'd you do that?
Because I think it's very judgmental to critique someone in their photographic learning journey. And when you don't have your seat in their shoes, like you don't know if they had any time to edit that photo. You don't know if they're only allowed to shoot small JPEGs. You don't know what the circumstances were. Like it's just very cocky to judge someone else's photography in that manner.
Okay, well, I wanted to interrupt you and mansplain, but I was like, no, don't interrupt the woman speaking right now. And I was like, just wait till she's done her thoughts. I'm learning. Am I judgmental? Fuck yeah, I'm judgmental. And I should be judgmental. But I'm not going to fully go on and defend this subpar stuff because when you're at the top of the game and you're one of a handful, you should be putting out quality work. It's not and yes, we're always learning, but in this situation, I'm not agreeing with you.
Right. That's true. But just because, you're better than someone doesn't give you the right to be sharing other people's photos and talking behind their back saying it's trash. Like that's not constructive. That's just being a dick.
Well, first off, no, being a dick would be putting it public. Being constructive is me the reason I do it behind people's backs is because it's venting to other people who rarely ever want to share their thoughts but agree with you. And it's more of a I wish they would do better. And then it's not easy to find a way to help someone in that situation, which this is a very rectifiable situation, especially when it comes to editing. I understand you talking about they're not shooting small JPEG. They could shoot RAW if they wanted, and you can shoot JPEG separate, and you can edit the RAW later. But the point that I was making, that I was just getting to before I called you, so you didn't yell at me when someone sent this to you and not give you a voice, a microphone, is that there's no reason why you can't have your picture control set at least pretty good because you're shooting in the same scene over and over throughout the season, for one. And two, I know plenty of professional photographers in other organizations who have presets for day, for night, for afternoon, for certain situations, certain parts of the field that they transfer to their phone right there in the shooting well, hit their preset and get it out into the world and then do re-edits later. But at least they made it look presentable. More than presentable. That's my argument.
Potentially, but you're also eliminating
we just lost Vanessa. We just disconnected. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm kidding.
You're eliminating the possibility that there's a lot outside of their photographer's control. So for example, when I shoot the golf tournament that I do every year, they don't want a picture profile because they want it to have as much detail as possible. So I'm not going to up the contrast. Another thing is,
are you giving them RAW?
Shooting literally. No.
Well, they're fucking idiots. No. First off, fuck them. Vanessa.
You don't know what that job entails. Some things are beyond the photographer's control. I just finished shooting a cover for a magazine, and very little, even the angle in which I was shooting was not in my control. It was in the editor's control. So you don't understand all the nuances that go inside someone else's job. Like you just don't know.
I hear you, but in this situation, I do know. in this situation, I do know. That's why I can speak with authority on the matter, is because I do know what they can and can't do and what they should be doing. Now, to your point about the client wants to tell you small JPEGs, fuck that. If they want shitty work, then they can have shitty unedited work. But sometimes you do jobs to get paid and you just pass shit over. Like if I was to do a wedding, I would pause my cropping anti-crop stance because it needed to fit into the album better, and that was for them. So I would pause that. But weddings for me were just to make money so I could survive in order to start my business, Fronos Photo, and thrive. And so I owe a lot to weddings for that.
You still don't know the circumstances behind each shot. Now, that being said, was the shot garbage potentially? Sure, but...
Oh, don't criticize people! God, Vanessa!
Garbage either. It wasn't total garbage either. It just didn't have your Skittles preset on it, which quite frankly is a little dated, dude.
There's FroPack 4 that has modified different versions and not dated. It would be dated if it didn't work, but it still works and it's
It'd be dated
tweaked.
if you kept putting that vignette around the end.
What vignette? The natural vignette that I keep?
Vignette. Yeah.
That's from the lens.
Definitely a darkened vignette.
No. There is no vignette added to Skittles. I will tell you what the vignette is. It's when I turn off lens correction from the Canon picture profiles. When you turn on lens correction, it whitens the edges, and I do not like it.
Right.
I do not like it.
I know.
And so
You like a vignette.
I pull back down the vignette because I don't want the outer edges to be brighter than the center of the image because it's taking you out of it. And I find that a darker edge is more, it's going to draw you into the frame more. And that's why I do it.
Yeah, and I find that a darker edge makes it look dirty.
I don't know who we're talking to. Hello? Wait, what? I'm losing you.
It's very subjective and subjected to whoever is posting on those Instagram accounts too. That's the other thing. And the other thing you're not even considering is the fact, and this happens with sports stuff a lot, that a photographer shoots it and then another editor who potentially doesn't know what they're doing completely ruins the photo.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely a possibility, but not in this situation. They are the first line of defense. I know people that do it right and get it out and edit it. I know this for a fact.
Then the other thing is, Jared, you also, like the last 3 conversations you started with me were you sending someone's photos and being like, this is garbage. This is garbage. And that by the third one, I'm like, dude, stop it.
I didn't send you the last one. There's one today that I didn't send you of a wedding photographer walking down back in an aisle. And they just got married, but the officiant guy, like a Catholic church, is walking in front of them. And the way the guy is shooting, I want to punch him in the fucking face. He's holding the camera.
I might want to do that too. Yeah.
Well, he's shooting vertical, which is fine, but he has his screen flipped down vertical. He's holding the camera down like at his knee level, and he has like a 360 camera or stabilized camera in his hot shoe or something, and that's how he's trying to shoot. I can't accept people not shooting the proper way the majority of the time.
Wait, but what part of that was improper to you, not using the EVF?
Yeah.
Okay. See, here's the thing. If he has to use the EVF in that circumstance, he is going to have a distorted photo of the couple because it's going to be eye level, meaning their heads are going to be bigger than their bodies. So the appropriate way
that's
to have a correct
saying that the guy's tall.
is to be at that. No, it's just eye level. It doesn't have to be tall. The appropriate way to get a correct perspective is to shoot at waist level. And unless you're really good at your squats, which I know you are, Jared, you can't do that while also walking backwards. Like that's what flip screens were invented for.
What about a little person?
Autofocus.
What about a little person?
You know what? If he was a little person, then he can absolutely use the EVF and he has no excuse. But it's an incorrect perspective. It's a perspective distortion. And you know what? Shooting at waist level with the flip screen while walking backwards is absolutely the best way to do that. Assuming that he's bracing his elbows and having a high enough shutter speed.
You heard it here first. All right, Vanessa, I should have just had you record instead of calling you. Steven's going to yell at me. I'm going to send you packing.
By the way, dude, I just photographed someone that you photographed. A guy, Ryan Holiday. His podcast is The Daily Stoic. Yeah, that's who I just photographed.
Yeah. Did you talk about me?
We did talk about, you recorded a little video. He showed me the book that you photographed for him, and then the person that you like paid it forward, and
my 6th degree project. You. Of course he remembers me. We talk.
Yeah. Anyway, he's cool people.
Yeah, Ryan's great.
I've talked about you. I'll send you I took a little video clip of us talking about you.
All right,
and
good.
Then I saw your photo, and I looked at the photo, and I knew immediately it was yours. I was like, yep, that's Jared Polin.
Well, that's good. I like that you can look at my work and say that's a Jared.
I can. You shot with a wide angle way too close to someone's face, so I knew right away it was yours.
Wait, was that the one in his book with the bookshelves behind him?
No, not the bookshelves. It was the cover of the book.
Oh, the 85. Yeah, that was a 105-14 Nikon. No, that was the part of the style that I went for the cover of my books.
Yeah. No, but it was very you. I could tell right away.
Exactly. I'd rather be known that it's me than some other shitty photographer.
That's good. Well, keep your vignettes. Everyone will notice it.
Okay. Bye, Vanessa. Thank you for mansplaining to us all of your wisdom.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. Oh, my God. Sorry about that, people. Sorry about bringing that. No, actually, that was pretty good. She has some valid points with the walking backwards. I guess. I don't know. I don't shoot weddings, so I can't really comment. So I should probably shut up about that. But on the other stuff, I am not happy with subpar work at a high level. And I do talk about people's work with other professionals. Especially when they're at the highest level. I talk about it. I mean, I do. I'm not going to hide the fact that I'm critical of certain people's work. But where it becomes an issue is if you let it affect your life repeatedly and it gets you really super duper duper upset, you just got to move on. So it's not like I get super duper duper upset. It's not really my problem. It's just that if someone was to ask me my thoughts on the matter, I would share my thoughts on the matter in a thought out way. So I still feel that in many situations, regardless of what Vanessa said, in her wedding situation, she can tell you how to shoot. But regardless of most situations, I don't think you should be, I think you should use the EVF just for so many reasons, for stability, just especially if something's right in front of you, just holding it, whatever. I do get down low, by the way, with my squats, and I do walk backwards while crouched down. I'm only 5'7" and 9/8. Like I'm almost 5'8". Oh, but then I have like 2.5 inches in my boots, not in my boots physically. I didn't buy boots that lift you. They're boots that just so happen to have, they're my Echo boots give you a little boost, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. I'm not upset about it. It's my height is my height. I don't get upset about that shit at all. Okay. Now let's put that to rest and move on. The other day I went out and photographed the Phillies. It was game 2. And my goal was to take the 4x5 and only the 4x5. So I left the other Sony cameras at home because that's what I was using. The game 1 is I used the Sony A9 III stuff. And I posted a few of those photos and some of my thoughts on it. And I went into the crowd. Actually, I started... Oh, no, the day before I did the national anthem photos up top, which turned out very good. It took a lot of mental exercise, mental gymnastics to pre-visualize the settings because I would take my light meter readings, I'd write them down on a piece of paper with a Sharpie because I knew the process I needed to go through. And I practiced the process before the national anthem going, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to 1/125th of a second at this f-stop. And when I hit the shutter, it automatically takes the picture and then it goes to 1/30th of a second. And then all I would need to do is flip the negative holder, put the aperture up and take the picture because now we're opening up, letting more light in, which means I'm going to cut down on the light by upping the aperture. And so I had this whole process down and I got off 5 shots in the national anthem and I got what I needed. So that was good. The next day it was like, let's experiment. Let's find the fans. Let's find this. And so I went to the spots that I went to throughout the year only to find that I was boned with most of the images I wanted to get because fans are going to be standing and cheering, which is perfectly fine. I'm not going to tell someone to not cheer and stand because I want to get a photo. They're paying money to go to these games. I'm never going to tell them not to do something because they paid money. And so I'm not able to get the shot that I wanted to get from where I wanted to get it. And so then I start to get in my head and I start defeating myself. And I don't like the idea of defeating myself. But I do, I took 6 pictures. It got so bad that I went down below the stadium to where the outfield gate is, and I saw a broom and I saw shadows of fans against the wall. So I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get some shadows and maybe I'll get the fans on the wall. That's how bad I was that day. And that's just some games you have it and some you don't. And at that point, I went back into the press area and I basically packed up my camera, or started to, because I was just like, I was at a loss for what to do. And I know some people are like, but Jared, like, you're at this game, why aren't you just shooting action? And like the other people, they're there to do their job, which is to capture the action, tell the story for the newspapers, for the agencies, for the teams. That's their job. And mine is different. I like to see, like, yes, I'm documenting in a different way, not better, not worse, not saying one's better or one's worse. It's just, I have the ability to do that because that's what I'm there to do, is document, tell a story, and experiment. That's what I try to do. But I fell short. That game, and it just weighed on my head because I wasn't getting the angles. I just gave up. And so that happened, and I wasn't happy that happened, but it did. And I'm not upset. Like, I'm not upset that I didn't get pictures of the Phillies comeback. That didn't bother me. I wasn't upset because I made the choice and I'm living with the choice that I made, but I'm trying to learn from that and understand that I do get defeated as well in my own head. Sometimes I persevere and I push through, and I need to do that. I mean, it happens all the time with this project where I feel like I didn't do well, or I didn't do enough, or I did too much. And then I develop the stuff and I'm like, damn, these are good, and it inspires me to do more. But then it's a rinse and a repeat. So I'm not the only one. I know you guys, people run into this all the time. I run into it, self-defeating, and I just have to push through it.
Hey guys, Steven here, randomly inserting myself in on this late Thursday night after Jared gave me this podcast and failed to tell me that I needed to insert something in it. And I just found out after listening back that he wanted me to put in the 10-minute Instagram reel rant that he did, which is kind of what he just talked about regarding the Phillies and his inner struggle on not knowing what to photograph, not seeing the images type of thing. He does repeat himself a little bit based on what he just said, and there's not much of an intro, but he did want me to put this in the podcast, and I think this is the best place to put it. So enjoy, and I feel like I talk a good amount on the podcast, regardless of what he says in the beginning, but, he's the boss. He pays the bills.
Good morning. So I want to do a quick share, and by quick, I have no idea how quick or not quick. Yesterday, I had a plan for photographing the baseball game. Take the 4x5, leave the real cameras behind, just to force myself into the frame set, the mindset of I need to focus on the 4x5 and I need to find the angles and I need to capture with this and force myself to do it. And yeah, I did it. I started early doing it. But I will tell you that I have a tendency, like many people, I think, to get a defeated mindset in certain situations where things might take longer, or you're just not being patient enough, or you just kind of get defeated and you give up a little bit. And that's something that I deal with, and that I'm sure plenty of people deal with, and you have to fight through. And I didn't do a good job of fighting through it yesterday. That's my fault. Other things get into my head about other things that have nothing to do with the game or what I'm doing in that particular moment. I have trouble staying focused on the one thing, which is that's what I should be focused on, is that one thing. And I didn't continue to roam the stadium. I'm not upset. I'm not like angry about any of it, that I didn't choose to bring those cameras. That was a choice that I made. So I'm totally cool with that. And I got stuff, and that's fine, right? Like I got pictures and they're developed and I have to go scan them, and that's fine. But I mentally gave up on certain things. Like I mentally gave up on the game, and I mentally gave up on, like, I need to leave. I need to do this. It's a mental thing. And I know I'm not the only one who does it. So I have to attempt to fight through that. I have to attempt to stay focused on the task at hand. Moving forward, I'm going to make sure I take the real cameras. Again, that's not a mistake that I made. I chose to do that yesterday in this specific game knowing that it was a game 2. It wasn't a decisive game. And yeah, it was a great game. Well, it wasn't that great of a game, but it ended great for the Phillies. And I knew going into it, like, that was an attempt. And you have to make attempts. And another thing is, the guys that are there shooting and the girls that are there shooting for news, like, they're there and they need to shoot for news and they need to get it out quick. I'm not, and this isn't a downplay of what they're doing. It's just like, I feel like I'm not saying make art, because I'm not a big fan of, like, saying art, but I'm doing something a little different that's chronicling just a little different. It's not saying that mine is right. It's not saying that theirs is wrong. Not that at all. There's different tasks in hand, but I need to mentally change my own frame of mind in these situations to focus differently, because I lost the focus and there's no reason I should. What else was I going to, like, why do I need to leave? Why do I need to worry about that? What do I have going on at home? Why do I have to worry about dinner? What is this? Like, this is the shit that goes through my brain. And there's a million other things. So, and then I put earplugs in because I don't want to hear the loud noises. But then again, maybe does that take me out of the whole game? Like, if I'm not hearing the yelling, if I'm not hearing the screaming? Or is it better that it keeps me focused? Or does it keep me in my head, which could also be a detriment and a problem? These are the things that the ebbs and flows, and I need to stay focused. And sometimes you're going to win some, and sometimes you're not. But if you continue to push through in those situations, you'll get rewarded. And I've been rewarded plenty of times this year with the perseverance and being in the right places, going for the right things. So this is me just sharing with you the mindset, what goes through my mind, that you're not the only one who feels whatever the hell this is, or what I went through yesterday personally. My choice, obviously. But you're not the only one who does that, who feels defeated in certain situations. And then, of course, imposter syndrome always kicks in some situations where you're talking with certain people and you're just measuring yourself against others when you really shouldn't, but we do. And it's crazy because I know that I'm good at what I do. I know that I'm successful at what I do, but there's always that doubt that creeps in. It's not just me. I know that. So the doubt does creep in, and it does. You just got to fight through it. Sometimes you do a better job fighting through it than others. Like I said, yesterday, I didn't do a great job of sticking to my plan. I gave up too early on myself. Just, that was me. It wasn't a reflection. Like, anything can happen in sports, right? I'm going to sneeze. Achoo! Anything can happen in sports. It's not that. It's just anything can happen at any time, so you need to be prepared. And I mentally gave up on certain things. That's on me. Again, not upset about it, just sharing my thoughts about the whole situation. And it's all in my head. So I need to do a better job of staying in the moment and not having my brain travel elsewhere or worrying about this or worrying about that. My brain, I get taken out. Like, my brain gets taken out of focus. And it's just, I just acknowledge it, understand it, plan better, not plan better, but just react better. It's not even about planning. It's just stay in it. Shut the fuck up. Stop being a little bitch, right? I'm talking to myself, right? Stop defeating it or getting defeated or feeling defeated or worrying about something that has nothing to do with what's going on right now. In this moment, in the next few hours, just this is where you are. But my brain has a tendency to just wander and go elsewhere, and that's just something that I need to focus on. It's something I need to, well, try not to focus on. I just stay focused on the main task. So part of the reason of like where you feel defeated and I need to push through it is when I'm trying to find those different angles with the 4x5, and I'm going into places that I went during the season preparing for stuff like this, the playoffs. And when I get there, it's like the fans are standing, which is their fans. They can do whatever. That's their seats, cheer, stand, do whatever. And then that will block me from those situations. Like, I can't get a shot if everybody's standing because of the way I have to set the tripod. It's like a whole different situation. So that started to wear on me. Not a reflection of the fans. That's what they're paying money. Do whatever you want. And I will not tell a fan to sit down. I will not tell a fan to get out of the way. That's not that. No, you do you. If you want to stand up and cheer, you stand up and cheer. That's what you're you're paying for. You enjoy. I will work around and figure out a solution. So I have to do a better job of doing that. But also, part of it with me and my brain is with the 4x5 is that you start repeating the same shot over and over. And it's like, how many times do you want to get this shot? Or how many times can you get this shot? So that's what I have to defeat and be like, well, you're waiting for the better shot? And I maybe will take 5, 6, 7 sheets and maybe none will work or maybe one will work. And you're just like literally waiting on a moment and you're snapping that shutter. And if it's a foul ball, you blew a shot, which is fine. That's the project. That's the game. But is game action as important as the portraits for the project? And do I shift back over to the digital camera? And these are things like I make decisions, I make choices. Do I always stick with them? And the answer is no. As you see, my brain goes all over the place. So this is just a morning-y thing. Not upset. I'm like really happy with what the guys did last night and the girls did last night at the games. You know, running on the field at the end, getting casty with his kid, which happened like this, which was awesome to see Miles, to see Mitch, to see D-Nice. D-Nice got out there too. He ran out. He got the video for MLB. Mitch shooting for Phillies and Miles shooting for Phillies. Miles went around the left side because that's where he's closer to. Mitch went around the right side. And they just reacted, and the shit happened so fast, and they were right on it. I mean, it was like a matter of a second, and then it was over. A second or two. They got there, shots, boom, out, over. But then you freeze moment. And that's what photography is all about, is freezing those moments. And there's so much coverage on everything at the games that they can cover all the angles and everybody can focus and just shoot and hope that you get it, but also hope other people get it, and that's the point. Or that if you don't get it, that two don't get it, one gets it, but that's the thing. They have a team and they have a focus. And I'm a little different in this situation because I'm not shooting for news. But it's okay. I just need to stay in the moment and not worry about external events or external things like, oh, well, I need to get home in a certain time because I have to get up to work out, or I have to make sure I eat food. This is a shit that goes through my brain. It's mental fortitude, I guess. Sometimes I have it and sometimes I don't. I'm sharing it just so that you understand the rigmarole. Not that too many people are going to watch 10 minutes of this, but this is the internal dialogue that runs through my head all day. And I don't block it out. Sometimes you block it out, but that's it. All right, on with the day. 8 o'clock. Time to start scanning negatives and work. Okay, bye.
So yesterday, I made a last second decision, which was another. I have bad FOMO, fear of missing out. I have these ideas. It's like sometimes I sit around and it's like I've got nothing going on, or then I've got 73 choices to make, and then I have paralysis of analysis because I've got too many decisions to make. I don't want to make the wrong one, but then what happens is I end up making no decision, and it starts to weigh on me. And I don't like that. I don't like that feeling where it weighs on me and then I feel like I'm going to make the wrong decision, because then I make a decision, but then I get some information about something else and I'm like, oh, I should have done that. And then I just end up just paralysis, man. It's just bad. Anyway, so last minute, I was able to get a pass to go up to New York, go to Citi Field for Game 3, and I made a decision. I'm taking the 4x5 to get the national anthem photo, which I developed this morning. I took 3 sheets of 100. I took 2 sheets of 400 just to cover my bases. And I didn't get to tilt the lens at all this time because I didn't have the time with what I was trying to do, just to make sure I got the right thing. But that's okay because I wanted everything in focus for this one. And I also took the R5 Mark II and the R3 and a 100 to 300 and a 400 so that I would shoot the game when I put away the 4x5, because there wasn't much for me to get after that point with the 4x5 after getting my accomplishment for the day, which was getting those shots of the national anthem with the players and teams lined up. That's all I wanted to do. So I did make the decision to drive up 2.5 hours up, 2 hours back. And And I'm happy that I did that. Did the Phillies win? No. But Sean Manaea was pitching, and he's the left-handed pitcher, Samoan, for the Mets. He knew me from watching my videos years ago, and he told me this year. I did some great portraits of him on the field earlier in the season in his uniform with the Mets, and it was just awesome stuff. He was a great guy. He gave me a ton of time. He had great questions. He saw me a couple of years ago when the Phillies beat him and beat them, the San Diego Padres a few years back. And he's like, I was afraid to come over and say hi because you're Jared Polin. I'm like, but you're a professional baseball player. Why would you be afraid to come talk to me? Like, I'm just me, right? Like you're the professional baseball player, but it's awesome that he sees me as something more than just whatever. And he was a little scared to come over. But anyway, we have great conversations, and he's really into learning photography, and he pitched a tremendous game. 7 innings. He did come out for the 8th, but gave up a hit to the first batter, so they pulled him there. And I made sure to get some great photos of him. What I could get of him pitching. I think there's some good ones in there. I got him walking off the field and putting his arms up, pointing to the sky, tipping his hat. What I didn't find out until today was that a few hours before the game, I believe his mother called him to give him bad news that his aunt that he was close to, or I say aunt, I don't know, people say aunt, his aunt passed away, and I was unaware that there was that emotion as a part of the whole thing too. And he pitched a tremendous game. So that made me a little emotional knowing that and seeing what he did. And he went out there and he threw one of the best games in his career. Just a really good game. So I did see him on the field after the game because he was getting interviewed on Major League Baseball Network, and I waited, and then he was done, and he came over and we shook hands, and I told him he played a great game. Yes, I'm a Phillies fan and he's a Met, but he's a friend, and you want to root for your friends. You don't want to root against your friends. And whatever the outcome was going to be was what the outcome would be. I'm not going to rub it in his face if he lost to the Phillies, and he's not going to rub it in mine that he beat the Phillies. This is a business, and he wants to win. But as a friend, like, I'm not going to go up and be like, oh, I'm so upset you won. I was like, congratulations, you threw a tremendous game tonight. And then we talked a little bit, and I said, I hope for your sake I don't see you Friday, which means the Phillies and the Mets will, by the time this comes out, have played the game 4. And if the Mets win, then they go on to the next round. And if the Phillies lose or Mets win, then the Phillies go home. But if the Phillies win, then they come back to Philly for Friday for a deciding game. So I said, I hope for your sake I don't see you Friday. But that was just my way of saying it. And that was it. He walked off, went into the clubhouse, and then I packed up and drove home. But was really happy to see him after the game, and he just threw really well. And so I sent him the pictures today, and I hope he enjoys the pictures. And I'm glad I went up. There's some good things that are going on. Some of you may have seen that I took a picture of Alex Cohen, and I posted. She's one of the co-owners of the Mets with her husband, Steve Cohen. And they've been really helpful for my project. Been bending over backwards, whatever I need, they've been helping me. And I've gotten some nice photos of her with her kids. And there's, this comes back to putting yourself into situations to be successful, right? If I'm not doing this project, I don't open up certain doors. It reminds me of Mike Kelly, who some of you guys know as an architectural photographer, who went out and started doing that wake turbulence photo. If you Google wake turbulence Mike Kelly, you'll see this photo that's a composite of LAX where planes were taking off throughout an entire day, and there's like 800 planes in it or something. I don't know how many he ended up putting in it, but that opened up so many opportunities and doors for him to go get paid by other airports to come in and do something similar there for art on their walls. And sometimes those passion projects turn into something bigger. And this 4x5 project has turned into something bigger. It's given me access to people that I didn't have access to before, because the camera allows you to cut down on, it allows you to have something to talk about with someone. This is an 80-year-old camera. This is an 80-year-old lens. Look at the results. So I carry around the big book with me and I show people and they get it. And that is what it's all about, is showcasing your work, but also putting yourself into situations to be successful, meet new people, but it starts with a personal project. I want to bring up something else from one of the photographers that I was talking to, who also does video production, was asking me some questions like, do you think I should do YouTube? And what should I do if I do YouTube? If I do YouTube? I'm like, well, what you shouldn't do are make videos where it's talking about what you do. What you should do is make videos like the ones you want to get hired to make. So if it's a mini documentary, then make a mini documentary, but then make supplemental content about the process of doing it and how you go about your process. And when you put that stuff out into the world, and a producer or someone who needs content to be made or commercials will see what you've done. Do the things that you want to get hired for. Make those personal projects. Because when you do the personal projects, you never know where it's going to go. You never know where it's going to lead and who's going to see it. But if all you do is just push like, I can do this and our company does this, no one cares. Sure, it's good to have a little EPK, an electronic press kit about what you do, but the best course of action to getting a gig is to do the thing you want to do and show people what you got. Show them what you do, then it's much easier to hire you. Oh, you'd like to hire me? You loved what we did there? Cool, no problem. And so I was giving him that advice. But what's also cool is that part of the discussion I was having with this photographer, who's been around since he was shooting sports when he was younger, 18, 19, 20 years old, shooting professional sports, is he brought up the point that he's like, there's not a lot of people that ask for his advice or ask questions. Younger photographers that are coming to these games or just in general reaching out. And I know it's tougher in certain situations. Like I get asked for advice all the time. I share advice, but some of the things I don't answer. It's like, what camera should I buy? Like ask me a real question and I'm going to help you. But there are those people that seek out your help. And there's those people that you are willing to help. And as a professional, I have no problem sharing my knowledge with someone who's willing or who wants to learn. That's what you got to do, is you pass it along. People have passed along their knowledge to me throughout my career. I bring up Rusty Kennedy all the time. Rusty Kennedy was a AP photographer, great photographer, newspaper photographer in the past, great historic images that he's captured. His son Miles is the Philadelphia Phillies team photographer. So I owe so much to Rusty for just sitting and talking with me before Flyers games on the bench. 4 hours before games, we'd be sitting on the Flyers bench talking photography, just talking. And he was taking the time to help me. There were plenty of people. I mean, there was one newspaper photographer, I think I know his name, I'm not going to say it. It's just like, blew me the fuck off. Just like, get out of my way, kid. I wonder if that was the guy I just gave a lens to. It could have been. May have been. No, I think it was this other guy. I'll have to Google it. I'm not sharing names, but giving back and helping is good. And so something for younger photographers, whether you're old or young, doesn't matter, new. If you talk to a pro, chew our brains, but ask good questions, right? Ask for help. Say, hey, this might be, I don't like when people say this might be a dumb question. Just ask the question, but ask the questions. And then I'm going to follow up with something. Like if it's a dumb question, I'm going to be like, ask it again or rephrase that or figure it, like, let's talk about it. Right. So don't be afraid to talk to professionals, but just cold emailing people. Sometimes we're not going to reply, but if there's a professional in your area and you're like, hey, look, I've been doing X, Y, and Z. Don't be like, hey, I want to get a free pass to come to a game. No, be like, look, is there a time I could come to your studio and watch as you edit your photos or make your selections? I find that doing this, I'm having trouble. But you got to be good and you have to show promise and you have to care. And there are people out there like that. So I love helping those people. I can't help everybody. Just understand that. We all can't help everybody, but we can try. But it was really cool to have I like talking with other pros. I really do. And we share knowledge. We share things that we like. And we look at other people's work and we're like, that was an awesome shot that you got. And then you're like, well, I didn't get that angle. Oh, he was also telling me that there was an assignment where 18 photographers were brought in to shoot a sporting event. 18 different visions of an event. There were photojournalists and landscape photographers and portrait photographers, but all were brought in to shoot this one sporting event. And he's like, what came out of it was incredible. To see that 18 photographers came up with 18 different angles and views and types of imagery was incredible. To see that one person could see the light a certain way or see shadows the certain way, that was awesome. And so he was talking about that it's just amazing that so many different people can come in and do different things. You don't want to do the same thing that everybody else is doing. You want to separate yourself if you can and come up with something unique and different, but still be good. What else do I did the Sony rumors. I'm going to skip the pricing discussion here about the photo book. There's decisions I need to make about the photo book still, but I want to stop right here basically. I hope you enjoy this. How much percent time did Steven get this week? 0. Vanessa got more than he did this week. That was good. That I see. I didn't want someone to send Vanessa this and be like, Jared's talking about you. So I just called her because might as well just call her and get her thoughts. So I got her thoughts. And that's it. Oh shit! I forgot to say this at the beginning. Maybe I'll say it. Maybe I'll do it in the voicemail. I mean, the voicemails are real that I do after the show. I should have said happy birthday, Tony Wang's 9-year-old daughter. Tony texted in and said, "Can you wish my daughter happy birthday?" So I'll probably do a. Let me make a note here. Voicemail, Tony Wang's 9-year-old daughter. You know. You could get her a gift. You could get her a toy Subaru. I'm just saying a toy, like that's not inferring anything, Tony. Anyway, Tony, happy birthday, Tony Wang's 9-year-old daughter. Happy birthday to Tony Wang's daughter. Happy birthday to Tony Wang's daughter. Is her name Vera Wang? I don't know. This is RAWtalk episode 122. I thank you guys very much for listening. Steven shall return. Jared Polin, FronosPhoto.com. See ya. Bye.